This is founder and CEO Avi Hoffman, and I'm so happy you joined us as we continue our mission of celebrating and promoting Jewish history, life, and culture, and their positive and far-reaching impact on the world. Enjoy the following presentation, and if you start to kvel, visit whyilovejewish.org to support our cause. Thank you.
These two pieces are very important in my career. Yitzhak Rabin actually got me started with my name internationally. Yitzhak Rabin was the prime minister who was assassinated back in 1995, prime minister of Israel. This piece was commissioned by the Israeli government. It was supposed to have been presented to Bill Clinton by Benjamin Netanyahu. I made two. Clinton has the other one, but it wasn't presented him by Netanyahu because he canceled Netanyahu's visit to Washington because he didn't want to give up enough land. So there was a political thing going on there, but it was wound up in Rabin's hands. It was presented by the Aventura Turnberry Jewish Center. My friend Amir Baron, who's the executive director, made sure it happened. This is the sculpture of David and Goliath that the original in solid silver is today in the Gerald Ford Library Museum in Grand Rapids, Michigan, that Rabin presented to Gerald Ford in 1974. It was shortly after the Yom Kippur War in 1973 when Israel was attacked by 5 Arab neighbors on the holiest day of the year, Yom Kippur. And this was, when I created this sculpture, that was my feeling about a small country, mighty oppressors, and the symbolism was Berchet, recognized by Leah Rabin, the wife of the prime minister, who said, what a great gift this will be from an American who's living in Israel and bringing it back to Washington to present to the President of the United States. It just all happened at Berchet. Now this piece of Jacob wrestling with the angel, also very symbolic. In that same trip to Washington, El Al, unbeknownst to Yitzhak Rabin, commissioned me to do a sculpture of Jacob wrestling with the angel, symbolic of Rabin's mission to Washington, to struggle with Gerald Ford, President of the United States, for more arms and ammunition to replace what Israel had lost in the Yom Kippur 1973 war. So this piece is very important to me also, Jacob wrestling with the angel. And that was also talked about internationally at the White House and on television. People were telling me in Jerusalem, were yelling across the street, Rabin's making you famous. And it's true. Anyway, I have some of my most important sculptures here in the gallery that have a symbolic meaning to me. They've been symbolic in my career. And it's like my little museum here. Here is one of my favorites because it's got my namesake, Jacob. Jacob wrestling with the angel. This is the story when Jacob fell asleep in Bethel and dreamed of a ladder of angels ascending and descending from heaven. I use sterling silver in my work. This is sterling silver electroform. I did it in my own foundry in Jerusalem that I set up back in the 1970s. I always used Judean marble and Jerusalem stone, and I still use it today in my work, and I still work with Israel. I still have the same foundry, not the same location. We've moved it to an industrial area, and there's grandchildren of the people that I set it up with that are working there today. They're not really working during COVID-19 because they have the same situation there as they have here in the United States. But when they start working again, this is where I produce my silver work in Jerusalem. And the Judean marble, we find it's like white on the outside. We break it open with a hammer and we get all these different veins and colors in the marble. And I'm still importing. This is a piece that I just imported recently, the one that you took of Yitzhak Rabin. I just imported this piece of marble, and it's all hand chiseled. And we have Christians and Muslim Arabs, working in the foundry. It's funny, the Jews sit together with the Muslims, but they won't sit together with the Christians because they eat pork. This is a story of Abraham about to sacrifice his son Isaac. We don't call it the sacrifice because he didn't sacrifice him. It's the binding of Isaac. He bound his son on an altar. He was about to sacrifice him when his faith was proven enough to God that God sent an angel. He said there was a ram caught in the thickets, but I said, how did he get there? The angel brought him. That was my interpretation of the story. But it's an angel bringing the ram to sacrifice instead of his 10-year-old son Isaac. This is one of my favorite pieces, Noah's Ark. The Ark, after Noah had sent out 2 birds, this is symbolic of the 2 birds that he sent out. And one of them came back with an olive branch after 40 days and 40 nights of pouring rain and floods. It showed that there was land, and the land that the ark rested upon was Mount Ararat. And here we have the waters of the mount of the floods pouring down the mountain and the animals debarking. This is symbolic of 2 of each animal that Noah had brought aboard the ark to save. But I love the sound of the trickling water. It's very calming. This is many different materials. You have bronze, you have pewter, you have silver and gold plating, you have brass, you have fiberglass, it's hand painted, you have many different materials. So let's talk about Moses on Mount Sinai. This is the Judean marble again. I use this hand chiseled marble, Judean marble, for the mountain symbolic of Mount Sinai. The sculpture of Moses is done in sterling silver. You've got the 10 Commandments with the first few words of each of the commandments, and they're in a gold wash. So you have a silver with a gold wash on the 10 Commandments and some other parts of it. But you have Moses receives the law on Mount Sinai. This is one of the pieces that when Ben Ferenz was here in the gallery, he said, that's my man, Moses received the law. He loves the word the law. That's very important to Ben. I made this sculpture back in 1977. The president of Israel, Yitzhak Rabin, asked me to make quite a few of them that he would give them, keep them in the president's house, and he would present them to important people, dignitaries, ambassadors that would come visit the president's house. Shimon Peres, everybody. Here you have the story of Jacob and Rachel at the well where they met. With the ram, the lamb. This is the lid from the well that he's removing, which was supposed to be stone. But I did the texture in silver to make it look like stone. This is a combination of silver and gold plate. You have the plaque, if you can get the detail, tells you the story of the meeting at the well. Also on Judean marble, and you see all the different colors. But it's actually this white color that's on the outside of the stone when we actually have to take a sledgehammer and go break open these stones to make sure you've got the white marble in the stone quarries in Arad at the north of the Negev desert. This is the story of King Solomon's wisdom, where both women, these 2 women were both claiming to be the mother of the child. And in Solomon's wisdom, he told the soldier, okay, give them each half the child. And he knew that the woman would say, no, give it to the other woman. He knew that she was really the mother. She wouldn't want her child to be cut in half. One of the many, many stories of the judgments of King Solomon. What a wise man he was. When I read the Bible and I read about these stories, and I'm living in Israel where I created this, and I read it, and I visualize these things happening. This is what comes to me, a picture, and then I want to capture it before I forget it. So it comes to me in my dream, in my sleep. And that's why I say that prayer that I say, Exarta bi nishmati, you return my soul to me to do your work for another day. So I'm like showing what I'm dreaming, my soul is back in God's hands when I'm sleeping, and I'm dreaming these things, and I'm thinking about them as I'm going to sleep. And when I wake up in the morning, I'm just inspired to go to my work table and capture it in 3D in sculpture, so that I have that story as I visualized it. And the odd thing, it wasn't so odd, it's very believable, that so many people also saw it that way when they heard the stories sitting in shul on Saturday mornings, and they heard these stories from their rabbi in Torah portions. And this is the way they visualized it, and that's why they wanted it too. So it became a very popular item for mostly Americans coming to Israel for the first time, or maybe not the first time they discovered me. They would come to my gallery 22 across from 22 King David, at 22 King David Street, across from the hotel. Eventually I had a gallery in the King David Hotel on the lower lobby level, but people, missions from all over the world would come see me, see my work, and want to take a piece back with them, because this is the way they saw it. This is the way they visualized it, and it meant so much to them. It brought those stories back to them.